I've been canning for a long time.
Is it more of a hobby or a business?
What? Are you serious?
Yes.
I buy chicken once a year. I buy pork once a year. I buy beef once a year.
What is the thing that's keeping you there?
Why do something that could put your family at risk? It makes no sense at all.
What do you love the most?
Is the best insurance that money can buy.
I think that ForJars could improve on. How did you and Phil meet?
Can be taken off of the stress, from our shoulders. I have been able to find boneless, skinless chicken breast for 99 cents a pound. That's phenomenal, right? Who wants to eat that?
Yes.
When it goes on sale for the lowest price and I buy quantity, I have automatically saved money for the year. In a 4th floor apartment. And he grows tomatoes and peppers in his windowsill.
Wow.
If you really want to do it, there's a way to do it. It's not supposed to be pretty. It's supposed to taste good. There's nothing safe about it. There's nothing good about it. Chief cook and bottle washer. That's me.
What advice would you give for beginners?
Go slow. You are not going to do.
What advice would you give to someone that's just starting out on blogging?
None of your business what other people's opinions of you are.
How long have you been with ForJars?
It'll forever crack me up as a potential missed opportunity that luckily I didn't miss.
Hello, friends. Welcome to our ForJars podcast. We are so excited to be here, and we have a wonderful first guest, Leisa Sutton from Suttons Days. I think you'll hear an audience clapping. I wish you could see all the background that's going on behind all of this. It's not just us two.
No. Takes a whole team.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out and visit us. We had the day before doing some recipes with you. It was amazing to learn from you. And I think people are going to love watching some of those recipes, trying some of those things, right?
Yes.
Also, that I get to flip the script on you a little bit. I get to ask you the questions and pull out some information from you. So I think the first thing that we want to ask is if you can tell us a little bit about your family. How did you and Phil meet? And then is it just the two of you? And do you have children? Or do you have any fur babies?
Oh, fur babies. Okay, so it's Phil and I. We have been married for 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah. We've been together longer than that. I made him wait a year to make sure that he knew what he was getting into. But I do not have children, but Phil has children from his family prior to that. So there's his 2 sons. And then I say all the time that before, when I married Phil, he turned me into a grandma. Because I was instant grandma. So we have our grandsons and we have granddaughters that are in other areas and stuff. So yeah, he kind of instant family on me. But then we also have our fur babies. And right now it's just Phil and I. It's him and I in the house, and 2 dogs, and now 2 cats, and pigs and chickens and whatever else
Well, that's a full house.
It
it's
is a
not
full
just
house.
you two. That's a full house.
Yeah, we're busy.
So you're from Michigan. Were you both born and raised there?
Phil was born and raised there. I was born in Illinois. My family came to Michigan when I was 7. So for the most part, I consider myself a Michigander.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Illinois, that's also cold. So
it's cold, yes.
You didn't have a problem adjusting to the climate or anything
I was
like
too
that.
young to care. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see yourself staying in Michigan long?
Yes. And staying exactly where we are. I keep trying to convince him to move to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan because
Even
it's
higher.
even higher because it's very rural. It's absolutely gorgeous, and he regularly says no. So he's not going to go for that. So we are pretty much going to stay exactly where we are and age in place.
What is the thing that's keeping you there or makes you want to even move higher?
We're old. Oh, well, what's keeping us there is that we're old. And the reason I like to go up there is that I very much like the rural communities. I grew up in a suburb of Detroit, right on the border of Detroit, so always very congested, a lot of people. But still, when I grew up, many, many years ago, there was still, it was different. It was easier going, all of that stuff. And when I moved up to where we are, that was over 20 years ago, it was like going back in time, because it was easier, not all congested and everything. But now time is starting to catch up and things are building up. And we just got our first Dollar General in my town of 900 people, wow. So it's changing. And I know over the next 20 years, it's going to change more. So I figure if we get higher, then I can outrun it. But
run away from everything.
Yeah,
What's
we're just
your
gonna
closest
stay.
neighbor right now?
Well, our closest neighbor is probably, how far is the closest neighbor? I mean, close enough that we can hear each other.
Yeah.
If they've got kids,
Yeah.
and so we can hear the kids talking.
Yeah.
So it's not acres and acres apart, but it's far
It's
enough away.
to where you don't look out your window and you see into
You
their
are
house.
not going to see inside their window. Yeah, it's great. Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I think where we're at, our city's growing as well, and I know that some people are also like, okay, where can we go to hide
Exactly.
from people sometimes?
exactly. Yes,
Yeah. All right, Leisa. So canning.
yes.
What first got you into canning? Was it friends, family, or did you just see a need for it?
I saw a need for it. I saw a definite need for it. For starters, where we live, if you blink wrong, the power goes out.
Okay.
And so having shelf-stable food to me was important, being able to stock up food without worrying about the power going out, because I think that our grid is in trouble. So for me, that was super important. And that's what got me started along the entire journey.
Wow. So what do you love most about the canning process? Now that you've started, how long have you been doing canning? And then
it's been a
what do you
long
love
time.
the most?
I've been canning for a long time. So yeah, it's been a long time. But what I love most is, what I love canning most is proteins. I love canning the meats and being able to have those shelf stable, not having to rely on the freezer in order to keep them. That to me is fantastic. It's my favorite thing to can, and it's so easy and it intimidates so many people, but it's one of my favorite things to be able to put up. And knowing that I have what I want and what I need
Yeah.
moving forward without having to leave the house,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
So how often do you visit the grocery store then?
Once a month. And that's mainly,
Wow.
mainly for dairy, like yogurts and milk. Phil drinks milk, I don't, but so milk, yogurt, coffee creamer, cheese. That's about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something to aspire to, because I know our family, we visit the grocery store twice a week, maybe.
Oh, yeah, no.
And so that is totally different level.
Well, because when you get to the point where you're canning and you're stocking a pantry, which I believe is the best insurance that money can buy, having that food stocked up in case of an emergency. And it's not an end of the world as we know it kind of an emergency. It's a medical issue, a financial crisis, a job loss. Any number of things happen in day-to-day life that we cannot predict. But if we can stock our pantry for those really hard times, then we know that that's one thing we don't have to pay attention to. That's one thing that can be taken off of the stress, from our shoulders. And so being able to do that, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and intention. It's a lifestyle, but to me, it's absolutely worth it, because when I buy chicken, now I know it's not this way for everybody, but typically in the last few years, I have been able to find boneless, skinless chicken breast for 99 cents a pound. That's phenomenal, right? And even in my area, because by the time summer hits in my area, chicken breast is $3-something a pound. So
Big difference.
that's tripling the price.
Yeah.
If I buy it when it goes on sale for the lowest price and I buy quantity and then I put it up, I have automatically saved money for the year. I buy
Yes.
chicken once a year, I buy pork once a year, I buy beef once a year, and the only thing I supplement is the dairy, because
That's
the
amazing.
fruits and vegetables I get either from the market, from the farmer's market, or I grow myself.
See, it kind of makes me think of like right now, in today when we're doing this interview, we're having a shortage of eggs.
Yes.
And so kind of moving into that, do you have your own garden? And well, we know that you have some chickens and other things. So what about garden, and what does that look like for you to help you stock your canning pantry?
I plant what I want for the most part, but I intentionally plant things that I know that we're going to eat. I'll experiment with some other things just to play with them and have fun because it's fun. But for the most part, I will, your onions, your peppers. I love growing garlic. It is so much fun. There's not a vampire anywhere near my house. So, I will intentionally grow those things that I know we can use. Like bell peppers, they can get pretty pricey in the middle of the winter, right?
Yeah.
But I can grow them at home. Now, they're not going to be as pretty as grocery store, but that's the way food's supposed to be,
The way it's supposed to actually look like.
Right, yeah. So, I will have more bell peppers, more sweet peppers, more jalapeno peppers, all of those fun things than I can deal with by the time they're all coming in. My kitchen counter is full. And so then it's just a matter of processing them, I make a pepper jelly for some friends. I dice them up and freeze them for, future meals during the winter.
Yeah.
It makes it so that I'm completely covered.
That's awesome. I think that's something that, for the most part, if you have that option, or those that are maybe thinking about it or weighing the pros and cons,
Right.
that this is a big positive to where this will help you sustain your family.
This
for
is a
such long
huge
time.
positive. Yeah. And you don't have to have a farm. You don't have to have acres of land in order to pull this off. I have one of our longtime subscribers, and he lives in Norway in a 4th floor apartment. And he grows tomatoes and peppers in his windowsill.
Wow.
Okay. So if you really want to do it, there's a way to do it. Are you going to grow enough to feed 20 people? No. But you're going to grow enough to supplement some of what you've got
for your
going
family,
on.
for you and those around you. Yeah. Could you share one of your most memorable stories from the time, from your time together with Phil?
Okay. We discussed this. The most memorable and most often told story is when he asked me to marry him.
Okay, so that's exciting to hear.
You would think so, because I get kind of oblivious when I'm involved in different things. And at the time, part of my job was putting on events in our community. And one of the larger events was like a 4-day event. And I'm literally working for 4 straight days, and I'm tired and I'm done. And he was there, and we were still dating. And at the end of the event, the last of everything is in the back of my truck. And so I've got a hay bale up against the back of my head. I've got, it's just packed, and I'm exhausted. I don't know my own name. And I'm in the driver's side. He's in the passenger side. And he looks at me and he goes, I didn't really want to do it this way, but here. And he hands me a box. And I went, okay, And so I open it, and it's got a ring in it. And I'm like, well, that's really pretty. Okay. Thank you. And I closed the box, and we went our separate ways. And when I went home, I called my friend at the time, and I'm like, hey, this is what happened. And she knew what was going on in the background. She goes, you idiot. He asked you to marry him. I'm like, no, he did not. And, so
the denial was big there.
I just, he didn't say, will you marry me? He handed me a box. So I hung up. I said, I'll call you right back. So I hung up with her and called him, and I went, did you just ask me to marry you? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. Well, obviously, it took. So yeah, that's
I
our
think that's
goofiest
sweet.
story.
That's sweet. Those moments where they're the most natural, the most, it's not a big show.
Not a big production. Yeah.
I
don't do
so
big
sweet.
productions.
Well, we'll talk about the productions a little bit later. I'm excited to find out how you got into that.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So what sparked your interest in gardening? Was it because of the canning, or was it before that you started gardening?
My mother had a garden when I was growing up, and it was a fair-sized, good garden, and she had 3 kids to weed. I don't. So, she
Cheap
had
labor.
Yeah. She, she had that. I've always loved growing things, I love being able to create things. And so that's a way to create something naturally. And it just goes on from there. I just recently got more into flowers and pretty stuff, because I'm like, if you're going to grow it, make sure you can eat it. Let's be productive, But now it's like, okay, I kind of got that covered. So now we're going to grow some pretty stuff too. But it's a way to be creative and to experiment without costing a fortune.
Yeah.
Because if you do it right, it doesn't cost a fortune. And just to have fun.
Yeah. And I loved it. I think you showed me some pictures yesterday with sunflowers, and it's gorgeous to have a little garden and then some sunflowers sitting there.
Yeah.
It's just picturesque.
It is. It just makes you smile. You walk out the door and you smile.
So is it something that's almost turned into a hobby? You enjoy going out
I don't
there?
do anything I don't enjoy anymore. Okay. I'm too old for that. So I'm going to enjoy it, or it's going to serve a purpose to some extent. Yeah. But I do. I wake up early in the morning. I'm an early riser, so I will make my coffee, and I will grab my my phone and head out to the garden, and I'll spend I get everything done before noon, because I'm not a heat person. So I'll get everything done before noon, and I will water, and I'll weed, and I'll do everything else, and I'll sit out there and I'll listen to the animals, and I'll listen to the wind or whatever, and just enjoy myself. It's a great way to be outside.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people pay money to get away.
And I walk out my door.
Be in areas like that.
Right. Yeah.
So that's amazing. So how does having your own garden affect your canning? Do you see that you're able to stock up more, do more canning because of your own produce that you have?
I can not more per se because it's less expensive theoretically than going to the store to buy it.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily stocking up more though because it's based on what I produce for that year, and if I don't, then I have to supplement if it's important. It's just another. I kind of think of it like an octopus. You've got the head of the octopus, right? And that's just one of the arms. That's just one of the sources to be able to get something.
Yeah.
If it's not something you're going to eat, don't put it up. You're wasting time, energy, and money.
Yeah.
But if it is something that you enjoy, it's worth doing.
Yeah. Well, I guess a little bit more of a question that's going to be turn us back more towards canning. Does canning have rules that are strict? Or what are some expectations to the process?
Okay. Yes.
I know that you love to talk about this. And
I do.
think
I do. I am a firm believer that if you're going to go to this trouble, this expense, this time, why do something that could put your family at risk? It makes no sense at all. So over time, they have done tests. It's done at different universities. It's the National Center of Home Food Preservation that is now with the University of Georgia. And they spend a lot of time and money testing the processes to ensure that we are getting not only a safe product, but a quality product. So sometimes when they have the recommendations, it's also about the quality because sure, you can Brussels sprouts for an hour, but pressure can, but you're going to have Brussels sprout mush in a jar. So who wants to eat that? There's nothing safe about it. There's nothing good about it, period. So it's kind of a nice combination that they do. The safety factor comes in that, well, my grandma always did it. Okay, welcome to 2025. Grandma's not doing it this way anymore because they have found that it has taken people out, and well, they've always done it and it's never hurt anybody in my family. Spin that wheel. That's just not something that I believe in. That's it. When you know better, you do better. And they used to drive around without their seatbelts on because it wasn't a big deal. It's still safe, right? No, guess what? So now they make us wear seatbelts. Now it's a law to wear your seatbelt because it's safer. They've proven it. Ask my sister who in the back of a station wagon hit her head on the back of a seat, and this is back in the day when you didn't have to have car seats. There's a reason this stuff happens. And some people go, government overreach, but it's not. It's safety. Why go to this trouble if you're going to put your family at risk? Most of the time, botulism poisoning presents as a stroke. So you won't even know.
Okay. I think that's information that's good to have out there for people to hear that for sure. So now on to an easier question.
Okay, good.
What are your top 3 favorite canning recipes that you find yourself returning back to more and more and more?
I refer to myself as an ingredient canner for the most part. I will can ingredients, and I find that to be remarkably easy as opposed to recipes per se. But I call it a festival pepper jam.
Okay.
And so it's basically a pepper jelly, and it's got all the pretty peppers, in there. So it's got all the colors. Is that
like a sweeter?
It's a sweeter. Okay. Yeah, it's a jelly it's definitely sweeter, and depending on whether or not you want the heat, you can turn it up or turn it down. So it's customizable. I don't eat it for the most part, but I have a lot of friends that do. So like one friend, I'll make her a case every single year, Wow. So I return to that. I return to the soups. Phil loves beef stew, ham and bean soup, split
especially
pea
in the
soup.
winter when it's cold,
right? Yeah, and we've been busy. So if you're outside and you're pushing 3 feet of snow, you want to come inside. You don't want to spend hours trying to prepare dinner. You grab a jar of that soup, you heat it up, you're done. Dinner's done. And if you want, add some bread or a salad or whatever. But it's that's my easy meal in a jar kind of thing. Mushrooms are a favorite, and the guy at the farmer's market knows me because I buy them from him. He's a vendor at the farmer's market, and I will get a 10-pound box or 5 of button mushrooms and go home and process them because it is pennies on the dollar and a better quality mushroom than what I can buy in the store commercially canned.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the ugly chicken.
Yes, I was going to ask about that because when I came to work at ForJars, I knew that it was an association. Leisa Sutton
Ugly
and
chicken.
Ugly Chicken.
Yes. And it's ugly chicken is raw packed chicken. That's the actual name of it. But years ago, I coined the term ugly chicken. That's kind of stuck, and I'm finding it all over the internet now. But it's raw packed chicken, and people would say, I had so many conversations. I can't can that because it's just so ugly in the jar. It's not supposed to be pretty. It's supposed to taste good. If you buy a tin can of chicken at the store or tuna at the store, if they turn that into glass, it would be ugly, So just it's good chicken. And so now we just regularly call it ugly chicken.
And what do you put it into? What are some recipes that you use? Like, give us the maybe top three.
Top three.
That you put ugly chicken in.
In the summertime, we eat a lot of chicken salad. So I will make it's chicken salad with like a mayonnaise or a Greek yogurt. I put freeze-dried cranberries in there and, whatever else you want. And you just put it on a tortilla shell or bread or whatever. It's chicken salad. I make a lot of different casseroles with it. It's fantastic for casseroles, actually. And then my third favorite would be I actually turn it into a pizza crust.
Oh.
Yeah.
So chicken
pizza crust. Yep.
I know we've heard a lot about cauliflower pizza crust. I've tried it. Not
a fan.
Not a fan.
No.
So that's an interesting one.
Chicken pizza crust.
Do you have a recipe on YouTube with
I
that?
do. Yes,
That's awesome.
I do. And it's really good.
All right. Leisa, how long have you been with ForJars?
It has been about 4 years.
And I think I remember you saying it was around COVID time.
It was during COVID time. Yeah. I do you want to hear the story?
Yes.
Okay, because it'll forever crack me up as a potential missed opportunity that luckily I didn't miss. Spam emails, junk emails. And when you are a content creator, you get a huge amount of them. And I got this email. And it had some kind of weird name in the header. And I'm like, obviously.
What is this?
And I read it and it's like, we have lids. We have a lid company and we would love to be able to send you some lids to try out. And at the time, I was legitimately purchasing all kinds of different lids and reviewing them on the channel because there was such a shortage you couldn't get a hold of them.
Yeah.
And so people were accidentally getting fake lids. Well, they were accidentally doing it. The people sending them knew them.
Yeah.
And so it was a really bad time for home canners. And I'm like, yeah, fine. I normally would just delete this. Why am I not just deleting this? And I replied back to it. And then he replied back to me. And then I replied back to him. And poof, here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe that we almost had that kind of missed opportunity. Can you imagine?
It was... I don't kid. You guys are my favorite company, but I think a lot of it has to do with the personal relationship that we built off of a potential spam email.
Yeah.
I should not have trusted it, and I'm somebody who really advocates for being very, very careful. I should not have trusted it, and I ended up trusting it.
You had good vibes.
Yeah,
good vibes
right from the get-go. Yeah.
That's awesome. We hear so many good things from you about us, but we do want to see, I guess, the other side of the coin, you can say. Is there anything that you think that ForJars could improve on? What are some things that you're like, all right, you guys, let's get this fixed. And then you guys are going to be top.
For the most part, I am head over heels in love. These are hands down, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the best canning lids on the market.
You're going into the positive again.
I know, because, the fail rate is practically non-existent. And you even covered a market that has a very, small following with the gem lids in Canada. I guess, I'm looking forward to the jars.
The jars.
I think the jars are going to be a huge game changer for you. I think they're going to be a huge game changer for us. And I know I guess because I've talked to you, because I ask, I know that there is, there's a significant hill to climb when you're doing something like jars. It's not just dial it up and have somebody make it and ship it, there's a lot involved in a quantity that is ridiculous. But I think the jars are going to be a huge thing for ForJars when you include them with the lids and with the canning accessories, food preservation as a whole. And so I look forward to seeing how you're going to grow with the food preservation.
We're excited to see that too. And I'm glad that you mentioned that it's a process.
Yeah, huge.
It's a process.
I don't think most people understand what has to happen in the background
Yeah.
when you're manufacturing products, you know, and that's a whole different ball game. So I think that the more people know, I know that you have been hugely responsive, even when we get to flip the tables and I get to interview you, you know, and my people come on and ask questions, and it's you know, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do this? And I know due to comments that they've had, different things have been created. So I think you guys have been hugely responsive, and my only caution is to stay in the food preservation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you ask everybody what they want, they're going to tell you. That doesn't mean that's what you should do. Yeah.
So be careful of the things that we kind of go into.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
That's a really
Become
good
the
one.
best at what you do.
Yeah. Okay. So canning can be intimidating for some people. What advice would you give for beginners? Where should they start? And can you share some key points to keep in mind? Because I know when I came, coming into ForJars, I knew of canning, but I didn't think that I was going to do canning. And we've had this conversation with my husband. I'm like, so did you ever think that I would be canning? And he laughs. And, you know, but I do find myself turning to it.
Yeah.
So
It's
beginners and canning.
brand new beginner is to go slow. You are not going to do everything and know everything immediately. Always check your resources, because not everybody is giving you safe resources that's out there. Make sure that you're doing tried, trusted, tested recipes, and those are from certain places. So it's not everybody that puts out a canning book. I have seen so many canning books that nobody should ever go near. Go slow. I liken it to, I'm from Michigan. I'm from the Motor City, you know, so I liken everything to some kind of automotive thing, unfortunately. And my thing is nobody learned how to drive in a Porsche. Okay. Nobody learned how to drive 100 miles an hour.
So you're saying not to spend crazy amounts of money on all of the instruments right away?
No, you know,
like where
there are instruments that you're going to spend money on.
So what are some that are the most important to, let's say, okay, I'm a beginner canner. What things should I purchase right off the bat?
Okay. The first thing you should purchase is a canner. And I am going straight directly to a pressure canner. Okay. Because you can use a pressure canner as a water bath canner if you want. And that's a whole nother thing. But so you'll really only need that one thing. You get a good pressure canner, plain and simple. What's a good pressure canner? The one that you can afford, okay? So there are 3 trusted pressure canners that I believe in. None of them are electric, because none of those at this time have been tested to be safe. And for the price of that, you could buy 3 of the other ones, you know? But so a good quality pressure canner is the number one thing to have.
Awesome.
And then jars. So it's an investment.
Lids.
Jars, lids. Well, don't forget the lids. Yeah. But you know, jars and lids. And then you need the tool to pull it out of the canner, you know, the jar lifter. Thank you. That's what it's called. And yeah, those are the must-haves, the absolute, without a doubt, must-haves.
You know, a question I have heard, those that are like friends, they've never canned before, and they're like, they would ask me questions. I mean, do I have to have something on the bottom of my pot to put my jars on?
Absolutely.
And why?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that pot gets hot.
Yeah.
That's an understatement. And so you do not want the glass jars sitting right on the bottom of that pot, because then the water and the temperature, everything, it can't move around it. So you have it on the rack. All good canners come with a rack, okay? There's one particular company I know that comes with 2 racks. And who would that be?
ForJars.
ForJars,
of course.
yeah. So, I mean, that's a game changer to me, because everybody else, you have to go out and buy extra racks. This comes with the equipment that you need, and I love that. You have to have a rack to set the jars on. If you're doing pints, you can double stack in the
Saves
20.
time.
It saves a lot of time, yeah. And that alone, time is money, you know, so you can double stack, but you need that rack to go between the 2 stacks. So you need at least 2 racks. And it just works out fantastic for getting a whole bunch done, regardless of what it is.
Yeah. All right, Leisa. So is there an age range for canning? Younger, older? Once you get older, is it harder? So is it suitable for all ages? When I know that since I've started doing it, my kids ask me, Mom, what are you doing? Why do you do this? What's this? What do you use this for? So where do you feel like you can start?
I feel like you can start as soon as they can stand in the kitchen and listen to you. You have to be present. You have to pay attention to what they're doing, but get them involved. We have at least 3 to 4 generations of people that no longer know where their food comes from or what to do with it when it's real food. So I think getting them into the kitchen and doing this is imperative. Now, would you hand a hot pressure canner over to an 8-year-old? No, but you're there, you're supervising, they are participating with it. And that is huge. My grandsons still remember cutting up green beans or using the sieve on the tomatoes in the kitchen sink. They know, how it's done and what's happening with it. And that's memories. First, it's great family memories. Yeah. So, and it's great wholesome family memories. I'm helping to feed my family. This is fantastic. So definitely, as long as they're supervised until they're old enough to truly understand the steps and what's necessary, then be there with them. But anybody can do that at that age. I every day am humbled by comments, emails, all kinds of fun, communications from people that get a hold of me and say, I'm 75 years old and you taught me how to can. I'm 80 years old and you taught me how to can. I'm 62.
So it's never too late.
It's literally never too late. What you have to be aware of is that pressure canners can be heavy.
Yeah.
So, if the 23 quart is too heavy for you, then you have to find a system to work with it. There are certain pressure canners that are super heavy. And so ForJars is just the right size. It's a big pressure canner, but you're only putting 3 inches of water in it. If you're pressure canning, it's not overly difficult to work with. And you can fill it up when it's on the stove, so you don't have to fill it up in the sink and carry it over. But that is something to consider as you get older. There are different things as we age nowadays. There are so many different things that people deal with, but pretty few of them are something that you can't get over and overcome or find a way to work around.
That's awesome. Okay, so then we're talking about canning. You got into canning. How did you go from canning to deciding to go into blogging? Where was that click that you're like, I need to do this?
I need to do this. I have been a social media fan since the day it came out. Back in the day, I'm the generation that remembers before there was internet. You know what I mean?
So you
I'm that meme.
The MySpace, the face.
Oh, do you remember AOL?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, that's how old I am. And I had a procedure done, and I was going to be down from work for a couple of weeks. And I'm like, what am I going to do? My mother actually was the computer geek at the time.
Really?
And I said, I can't stay in this house anymore. Can you come pick me up and show me what this internet thing is that everyone's talking about, And so she did. And she sat me down in front of her computer, and I got on AOL. And like 5 minutes later, that was actually 12 hours later, she said, hey, can I take you home now? And so, since then, literally within a month, I had my own computer. And I was online, and I was talking to people who had similar interests. I was reading things that I enjoyed. I used to have AOL get-togethers, where people all frequented this local chat room could get together and meet in person. It was just something that was fun. It was a way to meet like-minded people. And so as the internet progressed, I had a MySpace. I had, I had all of those things. But I was a YouTube consumer. Not a whole lot, but a YouTube consumer. And then one day I heard one of the people that I was watching about gardening say something about how, he could make money at this. He could do this. And I went, what? Are you serious? And
it was like a light bulb.
It was
moment.
kind of a light bulb moment. And I'm telling you, you're not gonna get rich doing this. Most people, it's definitely a long haul, but it was a great way I have fun with it.
Okay.
So even after a 60 to 80 hour work week, I would still come home and spend 15 hours working on this and talking to people about canning and teaching people about, different things. And I guess I have a way of communicating things that are slightly different, like ugly chicken, you know? So it's rewarding on both ends because I get excited when somebody else succeeds. And when I can help them succeed, I am even more excited. It's just a blast.
Well, that kind of brings me to my next question. It seems like before it was more of a hobby because you would do it after work. Right now for you, is it more of a hobby or a business?
It's at the small business stage. Yeah, it is definitely part of our income now. It's not a consistent part, but it's part of the funnel. So yeah, it's definitely something that we enjoy doing and helps us do things. I could not do what I do without it because YouTube allows me to get the things to teach the people, or like with Canuary, that's what pays for the canner to go out, So it's kind of hand in hand.
So when did Phil become part of the process?
Phil is always part of the process. Yeah. We're just kind of glued at the hip all the time.
Did you start Suttons Days YouTube channel together?
He supported me on it.
Okay.
Yeah. He enjoys, it was his idea when I was down recovering from some surgery. Yeah. I couldn't do videos. I couldn't do anything, And so he's like, hey, because he makes different moonshine recipes. And so he's like, how about if we do Moonshine Thursday? And I said, that's fine. Thirsty Thursdays. I'm like, yeah, fine. So I could stand behind the camera at that point and, try to help a little bit, and I could sit and edit. But so he has fun doing that, but he for the most part prefers just to help. He is my official taste tester.
Yeah.
Because
you need one of those for sure.
You do. So if I do a recipe, because big question that we get is, okay, I've canned it. Now what do you want me to do with it?
Yeah.
And again, that's because we have generations that have been removed from their food. Yeah. And so we also teach how to come up with different things to do with it. I will never consider myself a chef, but I'm a cook. So, and he will be my taste tester. And people are like, oh, you could tell by the look in his eye. I swear half of my subscribers are there because of Phil. He just, yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure having both of you here because it was nice because I know that I've done most of the talking with you, but to see him kind of as well. And it's usually the ones that are kind of behind the camera that
I couldn't do what I do without him.
They bring a lot to it.
Yeah, I couldn't do what I do without him.
How long have you been blogging for now? How long would you say, let's say Suttons Days. How long has Suttons Days been?
Over a decade.
Wow.
Yeah. Because we sat there talking about it one day. Sutton is our last name, obviously. And I said, how can we make a play on this? Because there's a place in Michigan called Sutton's Bay. Okay. It's a beautiful area. And actually, that's one of the places where the original, this is all I know, is the original Sutton brothers. There are 7 of them that came over from Sandwich, England on 3 different ships. And they're part of the history of Sutton's Bay. And so I said, how can we make a play on that? Because at the time, I actually wasn't sure what I was going to do with the channel. And so he came up with Sutton's Days, D-A-Z-E.
So Phil came up with that idea.
He did. Yep.
Wow.
So it's D-A-Z-E because you just never know what we're going to do.
What's going to happen.
Yeah.
So who does most of the editing and all of that?
Chief cook and bottle washer. That's me. I do all that. I do the editing.
Jack of all trades.
Seriously. Yeah. The filming, the editing, the scheduling, the thumbnails, the verbiage that goes, it's me.
Blogging is not without its, I think, negative points.
Oh, yeah.
How do you receive criticism or negative comments from your followers, or how do you usually react to it? What is your initial, thought, and how do you react to it?
It's taken me a little time to get to this point, but it's a mantra that I repeat on a daily basis, and I'm actually teaching it to some friends who are finding it useful. It is none of my business. It is none of my business what other people's opinions of me are. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. So you will get people who, quite honestly, just are not happy people, and their way to make themselves feel better is to get on the internet where they're anonymous and try to hurt somebody, try to be hurtful to somebody.
Yeah. Their emotions out.
Exactly. And it's, I have had amazing negative comments. It's none of my business what other people's opinions of me are, because it's not. It does not impact me. It does not affect what I do. I just read it, go, yeah, no, delete it, and hope they get better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, basic customer service, you just kind of go, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I know we've talked about it. You worked in customer service.
Oh, yes.
Did that help you? You feel like that built that kind of tolerance to it, or like knowing how to respond to it is more?
I would not say I'm great at knowing how to respond, because it's at such a different level. I mean, when you're face to face with somebody, with the exception of the past few years, we've kind of amped up. But for the most part, if you're face to face with a person, they won't say some of the stuff that they have the audacity to type into a computer. People are a new level of rude when they believe that they're anonymous.
Yeah.
It somehow makes them feel empowered. And I just go, I know you're not, because you haven't done anything to me. So we're good.
I think it's just being unbothered.
Yeah.
Unbothered by
it's
it all.
None of my business.
Yeah. Were there any moments that you felt like, okay, I'm done with blogging? Or if there was, how did you push through it and continue? Or if there wasn't and you're like, I've always felt like this was something I was meant to do, and keep going.
I kind of always feel like this was something that I was meant to do. The only time you'll raise the hair on the back of my neck is if you go after my husband.
Oh.
Okay. I am that mama bear. I will protect my people. I will protect my animals. And I mean, people, whether they're friends, if I love my people, do not come for them, because I am an angry 59-year-old woman who is waiting for the first time. Okay. It's just not something I accept. If you want to come for me, come for me. There's literally, you can't do anything. You don't, it doesn't impact me. But if you are rude to my husband, we're going to have fun.
Yeah. I definitely feel you there, because I feel like family is everything.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are going to stand behind you no matter what.
Exactly. Right.
And if you come for them.
You're going to have to get through me first, and that's not going to be easy.
What advice would you give to someone that's just starting out on blogging?
Okay. Have a thick skin. It's none of your business what other people's opinions of you are, and take that to heart and put it in big letters across the top of your monitor and your keyboard, next to your bed, in your kitchen, literally everywhere, because people are going to be mean. That's just their nature. Other than that, do it. It is fun. Even if, just for whatever reason that you want to do it. Because sometimes it's a creative outlet. Sometimes it's a way to meet people that are like-minded. The homesteading community as a whole exploded because they were able to communicate with each other online. Yeah. I've been watching the homesteading and the prepper communities for over 2 decades, and they have just grown and grown and grown. And they're very similar. They do a lot of the same stuff. And I've watched them grow and become more normalized, where now when you say, if you identify as a homesteader, people are like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where if you said it 20 years ago, they're like, what are you talking about?
I feel like people didn't even know that term.
No, it didn't exist. It's a fairly new term. Yeah. But, and the same thing, well, people have been talking about preparedness since Y2K and before, but it's the different, is it the exaggerated stuff you see on TV, or is it the insurance that keeps your family safe? Because if you buy car insurance, home insurance, whatever, technically you're a prepper. Okay. You're hedging your bets against disaster. And that's what other people do, maybe to a higher extent. Yeah. And that's what we do, because we're all about pantry preparedness.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a younger generation is coming more into, or like
very much
seeking that.
Very much. Yes. So. The uncertainty of the last few years has definitely put more of a spotlight on it.
Yeah. Leisa, ForJars also wants to thank you for taking the time to invest into people with what you do, to invest into the health and the preservation lifestyle, to tell people, in a sense, like shout it from the rooftops. Literally. Because we need to hear it. And so it's amazing to see the work that you're doing through this.
Thank you.
I think I mentioned earlier, even in this interview, that we did some videos with you preserving, and then we have some goodies standing right by us. We did some salsa and some strawberry jam, and then beef stew.
Yes.
So definitely check out our videos. You'll be able to see those recipes on there with Leisa. And it was so much fun. I absolutely love meeting people in person.
Yes.
Because we had a lot of it's been almost 2 years now.
It's
for
like
me.
we know each other, but we've never actually been in the same room together. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been wonderful. So thank you so much again.
Thanks for having us.
ForJars absolutely loves you and thanks you for all the work that you do.
I love ForJars, so it's a good thing.